The fourth year I was entangled with Ethan. My family went bankrupt. His first love, Sophia, seized the opportunity to say, "This will teach her some hardship and tame her spoiled nature." Ethan followed her advice, abandoning me on foreign streets. 4 months later, I returned to New York City battered and bruised. Everyone assumed I'd keep clinging to Ethan, but I began avoiding him and returning his gifts, severing all ties. Ethan joked with friends, finally rid of that annoying pest. Yet when I left the city, he chased me to the airport in disarray, pleading hoarsely, "Ivy, stay. Let's go back to how things were." I smiled faintly, gesturing to my slightly rounded abdomen. "Ethan, look. How could we possibly go back?" The day I returned wounded, Assistant Johnson met me at the airport. When I arrived at the private lounge, Ethan's voice carried through the laughter. "Ivy's finally learning her place. That princess attitude needed humbling. Sophia was right, without her family money, she's nobody special anymore. Who'd tolerate her tantrums now?" His mocking laugh followed. "Don't I know it? That clingy nuisance." The room fell silent as I entered. Their widened eyes reflected shock. The glittering socialite they'd known now resembled a war refugee, gaunt and hollow-eyed. Sophia feigned concern. "Ivy, what happened to you? Come sit." I remained motionless. Gone was the girl who'd throw fits seeing Sophia beside Ethan, who'd rise to every provocation until parties dissolved in tears. The memory almost made me laugh. "What's wrong with you? Get in here," Ethan snapped, his familiar disdain twisting his features. I lowered my gaze. "Thank you for sending Assistant Johnson." Ethan, retrieving a velvet box from my coat. I offered the luxury necklace he'd once given me, his only birthday gift, treasured enough to wear only on special occasions. He sat frozen, jaw clenched, as I placed it on the table. "Your hands," someone gasped. Blistered fingers and cracked knuckles told their own story. Ethan's stare burned into my ravaged skin, the physical evidence of my unraveling world. The scab had hardened again, twisted and grotesque. I tucked my hand into my sleeve and looked up at Ethan. "Ethan, there's one last thing I need to say today." His voice chilled me to the bone. "What is it?" "All these years of clinging to you, it must have been unbearable." I offered an apologetic smile. "I was young and foolish before. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." I turned to leave without waiting for a response. As I reached the doorway, Ethan's voice stopped me. "Ivy." His words bit like winter air. "You'd better keep your word this time. No more empty promises that come back to haunt us." I paused but didn't look back. Understood. The night everything collapsed, I'd been overseas. My father, the one who'd always doted on me, didn't survive. Within weeks, Mother liquidated everything and fled to America to live with her brother. This cramped studio apartment became my sole inheritance. I didn't resent her abandonment. If anything, I was grateful she hadn't left me homeless. The narrow bed here, though smaller than the basement mattress I'd shared with 7 others abroad, cradled me through the most restful sleep I'd had in 4 months. The doorbell shattered that fragile peace. Through the peephole, I saw Ethan's familiar scowl. Remembering he owned a unit in this building, I opened the door preemptively. "My apologies. I'll move out immediately and list this place for sale." "Ivy, what the hell are you?" "I'll be gone by tonight. You won't have to see me again." I reached for my phone to contact the realtor. Ethan snatched the device and smashed it against the floor. "Still playing hard to get after 4 years? Sell your home and wander the streets at midnight? Then call me weeping for rescue so you can't accidentally move in? When will you grow out of these transparent games?" I stared at the shattered plastic, throat tightening. During those desperate months abroad, even meals had been uncertain. This phone had been a charity gift from my former employer when I returned. As I knelt to collect the fragments, Ethan threw his wallet at my feet. Buy a new one. Consider it compensation. His voice dripped with contempt. Now you've got no excuse to bother me. The door slammed. I laughed through tears staring at the leather billfold. Eventually I purchased the cheapest phone available. He was right, clean breaks were best. When I called Assistant Johnson to retrieve the wallet, his assistant sounded strained. "Ms. Peter. I'm terribly sorry but I can't get away right now. Could you please have the wallet delivered to the office?" After some thought, I replied, "Sure. I'll bring it over soon." Assistant Johnson hung up and glanced at Ethan standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Though he didn't fully understand why Ethan had instructed him to make that call, he sensed something. Ethan didn't seem to despise Ivy as much as he'd assumed. "Did you get the medication?" "Everything's here." Assistant Johnson quickly handed over the paper bag containing wound care and scar treatment supplies clearly intended for Ivy. Ethan nodded. "You may leave." About 40 minutes later, the reception desk called up to the executive office. Assistant Johnson knocked tentatively. "Ethan." Ivy sent a courier delivery. Before he finished speaking, the jade paperweight crashed onto the marble floor. The assistant held his breath until Ethan suddenly laughed coldly. "Well now. A few months apart and she's grown bold. After listing my apartment, I moved into a budget hotel. Ethan never contacted me again, but began conspicuously appearing everywhere with Sophia. Friends kept calling Ivy. Did you two have a fight? Is Sophia marrying Ethan? They were ring shopping yesterday." I stopped responding, staring at my slightly rounded reflection. I called the realtor to lower the price by $7,000. I needed to leave the capital quickly. Permanently. The pregnancy was completely unexpected. By the time I realized, the fetus was already 12 weeks along, fully formed with tiny hands and feet. The doctor said. Tears streamed down my face during the ultrasound. But I ultimately scheduled termination. Fate intervened during pre-op preparations. Distant explosions blacked out the hospital. The child remained. I comforted myself that at least the father had been that heartbreakingly handsome Eastern stranger who had rescued me from being trafficked in the war zone. When I'd screamed for help in Chinese, I'd already accepted whatever came next. When escrow closed, Sophia called. "Ivy, I've decided to accept Ethan's proposal. Congratulations to you both." The day I sold my apartment, I traced my bump and whispered, "Better your father's anyone but Ethan." Perhaps this was fate's final mercy that my child would never know the man who'd abandoned us both. On the day of the engagement, I asked, "I hope you can come. Will you?" "Sorry. Are you still holding on, Ivy?" Sophia's tone softened with what seemed like pity. "Some things aren't meant to be forced. Though I'll admit you've gotten smarter, playing the retreat to advance card now. But it's pointless. Ivy. Ethan only listens to me. I've always been the only one in his heart. See? With one word from me, he left you behind. What exactly are you trying to say, Sophia?" The line went silent for a beat. "Ivy." Her voice turned icy. "I've decided to take him back. So let me make this crystal clear, stop clinging to Ethan." "Have I been clinging?" "Don't pretend. I know exactly what you're scheming. You'd never let go of someone you love this desperately. Especially now that your family's bankrupt. If he's truly only mine, why are you so threatened?" The silence stretched until I hung up. Seconds later, a voice message arrived. Ethan's drawl dripped with contempt, finally shook off that annoying leech. "Never felt this free in my life." A male laughter followed. "Congratulations on your freedom, Mr. Johnson." I smiled faintly and powered off my phone. The day I left Beijing choked under thick smog, dragging my suitcase through the airport doors. I froze at the roar of an engine. Turning instinctively, I recognized the car speeding toward me. gripping my luggage tighter. I strode forward. Ivy! Ethan leaped from the vehicle, catching up in 3 strides. Ivy. His fingers dug into my arm, voice fraying. Where are you going? Let go. Ethan. His bloodshot eyes looked haunted. Stay. Let's go back to how things were before. Releasing my suitcase, I stepped back and slowly unbuttoned my coat. The winter wind stabbed through me instantly. My waist remained slender, but a subtle curve had emerged below. Ethan's gaze crawled downward, locking onto my abdomen. I smiled. Ethan. Look closely. How could we ever go back? The howling wind seemed to still. He stood motionless until finally raising devastated eyes. Ivy, why? Wrapping my coat tighter. I smoothed wind-tangled hair. You're asking me? My laugh held no warmth. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? That's not, he choked. I left you there. But Sophia said her relative would come. She claimed you needed to toughen up. That your spoiled nature would ruin marriage prospects. I was so irritated by your clinging, I agreed without thinking. I never meant to hurt you. Just teach you a lesson so you'd stop. Her relative came. My smile dissolved. The truth hung between us. Colder than Beijing's winter. Ethan Johnson let out a sigh of relief. I knew Sophia always handles things with grace and thoroughness, but do you know what her relatives do for a living? Ethan froze. Ivy? Organized crime. Smuggling. Every vice imaginable. My hollow eyes reflected his gaping expression. That ridiculous look of shock frozen on his face. To escape his control, I'd nearly died. Lost my ID. Phone. Wallet. Starved until I fought beggars for scraps. Slept under bridges where men tried to assault me. Ended up targeted by traffickers for the red light districts. My tears had dried up during those 4 months. Yet the biting wind stung my eyes now. The only person who'd helped me back then was him. The biological father of the child growing inside me. Stop. Ethan's face twisted with anguish. He seized my wrist. Let's go to the hospital. This unidentified child can't stay. Why? He avoided my gaze. Voice rough. Terminate the pregnancy. And we'll pretend none of this happened. I'll treat you right. Your mother's in America now. With no family here. You'll need my protection. Ethan. I wrenched free. Don't be stubborn. No one knows about the pregnancy. My private clinic will handle it discreetly. Your reputation won't suffer. What then? I challenged. Will you marry me? He flinched. Lowered lashes shadowed his conflicted expression before he finally muttered. Given your family's circumstances, the elders would never approve. But I'll take care of you always. Ethan. My soft call made him look up. I smiled faintly. Know what I'm most grateful for now? What? That we never slept together. That this child isn't yours. Ivy, panic flooded his eyes. I stepped back. Don't come looking for me. Don't make me regret ever loving someone like you. Grabbing my suitcase, I turned away. He chased after me. Where will you go? You've never worked a day in your life. How will you survive without Beijing? Without me? Whirling around, I released my luggage. Held up my scarred palms. With these hands, Ivy won't starve. Ethan stared blankly, trembling violently. I'd never seen him like this. In our circle, he was the wildest, most carefree one, that perpetually arrogant young master who swaggered through every gathering. In my naive youth, I'd secretly prayed countless times. Prayed Ethan would notice me, treat me kindly. Prayed Sophia would stay far away from him. Stop meddling in our relationship. Prayed I could become Mrs. Johnson. Whenever he flashed me that careless smile, I'd forget every humiliation and tear, trailing after him like an eager puppy. Relentless. Exhausting. Now he couldn't let go. Now he begged me to stay. Finally, his eyes saw me. All I felt was revulsion. Ivy, his hand hovered near mine, freezing millimeters from contact. Those pampered fingers I once recognized. My own hands used to look like that. Now they bore twisted knuckles. Scar tissue. Ugly calluses from labor. Less delicate, but stronger. Turns out greenhouse flowers don't necessarily die when uprooted. The airport lights glared as abdominal cramps hit. Stress from our fight? Or my body finally collapsing from weeks of strain? Warm liquid trickled down my thighs as the world tilted violently. Voices swarmed as I felt chaotic shouts of Ivy, fading into hollow silence. I awoke to sterile white and antiseptic smells. Monitors beeping. When I reached for my stomach, a gentle hand stopped me. Don't worry, Ivy. The baby's fine. The middle-aged woman had kind eyes despite her plain features. Her accent sounded foreign. Clothes oddly old-fashioned. Familiar. Yet, Alex knows. He's on a flight here now. She adjusted my blanket. Water? My foggy mind struggled. Alex, but we'd agreed to cut ties permanently. Of course. The pregnancy broke our arrangement. I still didn't know what power this Alex wielded. Only that he always got what he wanted. Even just from his attire, daily routines, and expenditures. One could deduce that his background and origins were utterly inscrutable. That morning after, while dressing to leave, he casually asked if I wanted to follow him from then on. Under those circumstances, aligning myself with him would have been the most viable path forward. Yet I declined. I refused to remain a loathsome parasite. Though rejected, he showed no malice, even offered me money, which I didn't accept. He saved my life. I spent a night with him. We could call it even. For 3 months afterward, I never saw him again. Adrift and destitute. I learned survival through harsh lessons, budgeting every penny, reading social cues, shedding my spoiled naivety. During bone-weary nights, I'd sob with regret. When exhaustion pinned me to floors, I nearly crawled back to Alex. But I endured. Leaning on men breeds lifelong dependency. The family's bankruptcy stripped me of my heiress status. Returning with entitled delusions would have doomed me to perpetual reliance on others. I refused that existence. After the caretaker helped me drink water and eat, I drifted into fitful sleep, eventually dreaming of Mr. Brown. There he lounged in his study, lighting a cigar with a torch lighter. Servants made me stand endlessly before he finally glanced up. Ivy. Mr. Brown. Those cold, detached eyes always seemed veiled by mist, physically present yet eternally distant. In the dream, he fell silent after saying my name, smoking until my nightgown clung to sweat-drenched skin. My swollen belly ached from prolonged standing. As I swayed faintly, he finally spoke. Who gave you the audacity to carry Alex's bastard? Sir. I didn't. I took every pill you provided. Check the surveillance. He waved tiredly at bodyguards despite my screams. I awoke sobbing his title, tears blurring the face of a handsome man now asking, "What nightmare reduced you to this weeping child?" He had distinctly Eastern features, yet his irises glowed amber. His Mandarin carried a slight accent, but that deep voice resonated beautifully. Dressed in a custom-tailored black peak lapel suit, he sat by my hospital bed, carefully dabbing away tear stains from my cheeks with a handkerchief. The scene felt surreal yet oddly comforting. I stared blankly until recognition dawned. Alexander Brown? It's me. He set aside the damp cloth, his tone as composed as ever. I jolted upright despite his restraining hand on my shoulder. Alex. I swear I took every contraceptive pill you provided. The staff can confirm it. The security footage too. I don't understand how this pregnancy happened. When I found out, I went straight to the hospital. But the explosion cut power before my words tumbled out frantically. Please arrange the procedure immediately. You can personally supervise if. Ivy. His interruption carried the same velvet cadence from my dreams, though stripped of its former impatience. I follow Buddhist teachings against taking life. Those typically aloof eyes softened as his gaze dropped to my abdomen, especially when it's my own blood. His fingers brushed damp strands from my forehead. Rest now. We'll discuss this later. Alex. Alex straightened, his expression reverting to its customary detachment. Unless you genuinely wish to terminate. During discharge preparations, he posed the question again. Ivy, are you coming with me? This time, my answer didn't come easily. He stood framed by bodyguards and aides, the stark black overcoat emphasizing his lean frame. Everything about him whispered refinement, the measured speech, the mild temperament. Yet an undercurrent of menace clung to him like cologne. The old naive Ivy might have leaped at his offer of luxury and security. Now I recognized the gilded cage beneath. Still, when those gentle eyes held mine, treacherous hope flickered. Could there be genuine care behind that marble exterior? After agonizing moments, I forced out the refusal. Alex. I'm grateful, but I can't accept. The hallway plunged into weighted silence as my words hung between us. The crowd standing behind him held their breath with lowered eyes. Not a sound of respiration audible. My palms grew clammy with tension. Very well. Alex's voice shattered the unbearable silence. His expression remained unreadable. That same impassive calm. Still. I appreciate your trouble. I shook my head hastily. Not at all. Sir. Please don't worry about me. Alex nodded slightly. Are the funds sufficient? More than enough. Remember to contact me if any difficulties arise. Of course. Ivy. He emphasized. This isn't empty courtesy. I understand. Mr. Brown. I won't act recklessly. I assured him. With a final glance, Alex entered the waiting car. I watched the vehicle disappear down the avenue before resting a hand on my abdomen, releasing a shuddering breath. Miles away from the hospital, Alex suddenly broke the silence. Assistant Johnson. Do I appear fearsome? Sir. You're the epitome of graciousness. Why would you think such a thing? She seemed terrified of me. Assistant Johnson hesitated. Ivy simply needs time to know you better. The acquaintance is still new. Alex turned his obsidian prayer beads absently, staring through tinted windows. Even with child, she refuses to stay. He murmured, more to himself than his assistant. Assistant Johnson remained silent, recalling the night they'd found Ivy screaming in that alley. He'd assumed his employer's intervention was mere charity. Even after bringing her to the Brown estate, he never anticipated this outcome. The entire household had hoped after decades of solitude, the master might finally settle. Yet here was this sheltered heiress choosing slum life over luxury, scrubbing floors until her hands blistered, fighting for daily bread. Assistant Johnson's own humble origins made him respect her stubborn resilience, even as it perplexed him. Perhaps that very determination captivated Alex. Why else dispatch trusted guards to shadow her cross-continental flight? When the pregnancy scare came, Alex had walked out on a billion-dollar merger. The entire entourage witnessed his uncharacteristic haste. They'd all anticipated wedding preparations. Instead, they watched Ivy slip through Alex's fingers like moonlight, beautiful, untouchable, forever beyond grasp. Alex wanted to offer comfort but stumbled over his words. Seeing Mr. Brown's silence, Alex's chest tightened with helpless anguish. Sir, if it comes to it, I could bring Ivy here by force. Mr. Brown lifted his gaze. No one touches her. Alex. That's final. But sir, the young aide broke protocol in his urgency. Let her have this happiness. Mr. Brown closed his eyes. Ending the discussion. Leaving the hospital. My phone buzzed with Ryan's caller ID. Though many in our circle despised me, Ryan had always shown basic decency. Despite my bitter fallout with Ethan, I maintained our childhood habit of addressing his older cousin respectfully. Ryan, did you need something? Could you come downtown? I paused. Let's discuss this over the phone. It's Ethan and Sophia. They had a blowout fight, he struck her. My eyebrows rose. For years, Ethan had worshipped the ground Sophia walked on. Now that their engagement was official, this violence seemed surreal. She's threatening to jump from the penthouse. He can't calm her down. What exactly am I supposed to do? Ethan's forcing her to apologize to you in person. A humorless laugh escaped me. Unnecessary. While her meddling was wrong, let's not forget who lit the fuse. For years of my pathetic clinging created this powder keg. Ethan still cares. Stop. The words curdled in my stomach. We're done here. Exhaustion weighted my bones. Though desperate to flee the city, my doctor's strict prenatal care orders anchored me to weekly hospital visits. I booked a budget motel across from the medical center. My phone lit up with Ryan's text, a photo of Ethan slumped on a leather couch, blood streaming between the fingers pressed to his temple. 2 years ago, this image would have shattered me. Now I typed coldly, "Get that looked at. Looks bad. He refuses treatment." I silenced my phone. When an unknown number flashed moments later, I let it ring into voicemail. I had a vague idea who it was, so I didn't answer. After that, my phone stayed silent. Back at the hotel, I washed up briefly and went to bed. I didn't wake until 9 the next morning. There were several messages on my phone. Sophia had texted me at 2 a.m. "Ivy, are you happy now? Ethan refuses to marry me because of you. I'll make sure to return that slap personally." The woman was clearly unhinged. If we were settling scores, how many slaps would Sophia deserve? I blocked all these numbers without exception, even Ryan's. But during my next hospital visit, I ran into Ethan again. He'd clearly been waiting for me. Meeting him head-on, I simply nodded and headed toward the elevators. With bandages around his head, Ethan looked disheveled. He trailed silently behind me through registration, examinations, and pharmacy visits. Exhausted, I sank onto a hallway bench. After multiple hesitant glances, he finally spoke. "Ivy, that man abandoned you and the baby. Didn't he? That's between us." Ethan stared intensely, resolve hardening. "Stay with me. I'll provide for your child." I'd intended to ignore him, but his audacity sparked bitter laughter. Meeting his gaze, I asked, "What's this really about, Ethan?" I saw everything that day. His voice dropped. "Those men took you to the hospital. Even Ryan said Alex's connections make him dangerous. Now he's discarded you both." He knelt before me, desperation replacing his usual arrogance. "We've known each other since childhood. Let me give you a house. Cover all expenses. Just look at me like you used to. Love me again. Keep the baby, I don't care, as long as you stay." The man resembled a child begging for candy. Yet my heart remained still. "Ethan." My voice softened. "The Ivy who loved you died overseas 4 months ago. We can start over. I don't love you anymore." The words fell like stones. Not even a flicker remains. "You know me, when I'm done. I'm done." All color drained from his face. Yet he kept grasping, "Please. Just." I stood, cutting him off. My shadow passed over his crumpled form as I walked away without glancing back. If you don't like me, who else could you possibly like? That man who irresponsibly abandoned you and your child? Ivy, do you have any idea how difficult life will be for a single woman raising a child with an unknown father? Difficult? If I'm not afraid of death, Why would I fear hardship or suffering? So you still resent me for leaving you behind? What will it take for you to forgive me? He gripped my hand, his emotions escalating. I didn't want to argue with him in a hospital. Then make Sophia endure everything I've suffered. If you can do that, will you come back? I pushed him away, straightened my coat, and walked out. We'll see. Ethan would never let Sophia walk through hell. I didn't take my own words seriously, after all these years. I'd never won against Sophia. Ethan always sided with her. This time would likely be no different. But I no longer cared. A week later at dusk, I received a call from Alex while strolling near the plaza outside my apartment complex. A flock of pigeons scattered as his low voice resonated through the phone. Their wings cast shadows over the sunset-streaked clouds. Sitting on a bench, I felt an unexpected calm. MS. Peter, I need to ask a favor. Go ahead, Mr. Brown. Next month, I'll be handling a personal matter. If I return safely, I'll honor our agreement to leave you and the child undisturbed. But if I don't, the baby you're carrying would be my only heir. Would you consider remaining with the Brown family? My chest tightened. Mr. Brown, is this dangerous? Nothing that concerns you or the child. This is merely a request. Ivy. I won't force you. I have a medical checkup tomorrow. A brief pause. Understood. Apologies for, I could travel the day after. Could your people fetch me then? Static crackled faintly. His breathing hitched. I traced the curve of my belly, smiling faintly. 10 a.m.? Agreed. Then it settled. Mr. Brown. He ended the call at 2 a.m., his world steeped in night and the metallic tang of blood. The abrupt interruption snapped Alex back to reality from that rare moment of tenderness. He put away his phone. All traces of warmth from his earlier conversation completely vanished. He descended the stone steps with measured calm until standing before the man trembling violently on his knees. The kneeling man first saw polished leather shoes splattered with blood, shoes worth more than his lifetime earnings. He pressed his forehead to the ground, babbling, "Please, Mr. Brown, please, Mr. Brown. I swear I'll never." A shoe tip jerked his chin upward. Under the icy moonlight, Alex's eyes held more frost than the winter night itself. "I made it clear," he said, voice devoid of inflection. "My men don't touch what's forbidden. But Mr. Brown, I, Jiang Luhua." The name fell like a guillotine blade. "You not only touched it, but your men hospitalized 3 officers." The man's ashen face glistened with sweat. "I'll cut off my own arm. I swear." Too late. Alex turned away. "Ethan, deliver him to the precinct." Horror contorted Zhang's features, a death sentence awaited him there. "Think of your wife and child," Alex added without glancing back. The man's pleas died instantly. Outside the compound, an attendant handed Alex a steaming towel. He meticulously cleaned his hands before sliding into the town car. "Sanitize this place," he instructed calmly. "Ivy arrives Thursday. I won't have her frightened." The Brown estate sprawled across manicured gardens blooming defiantly against winter's bite. White stone buildings rose in harmonious clusters, though escorted past countless marvels. I found myself again in the primary mansion's second-floor master suite, unchanged from that fateful night. Heat flooded my cheeks upon entering. Alex took my luggage, dismissing the staff. "Rest first," he said. "I'll handle unpacking." "Really, Mr. Brown?" "I can. You're carrying our child." His hand engulfed mine, guiding me to the sofa. I watched helplessly as he began sorting through blouses and toiletries. When his fingers brushed my lingerie, I sprang up with unexpected agility, snatching the delicate fabrics. Alex relented at my crimson blush. I hastily organized the intimate wear. oblivious to his own undergarments sharing the drawer. Only later, while showering, would I remain unaware of Alex standing motionless in the walk-in closet, staring at the explosion of colors amidst his monochrome wardrobe, a slow smile thawing his features. I knew so little of Alex. From my perspective, he must be someone born into an excellent family background, a highly respected businessman with significant ventures. Initially, I didn't take his phone warnings too seriously. That changed when I accidentally overheard Aum mention his upcoming trip to Mexico, where he'd be dealing with the most ruthless and dangerous individuals. These people had crossed lines even Alex couldn't tolerate. Now Alex needed to clean up their mess and make a clean exit, which sounded both complicated and perilous. But Ivy, Aui continued, you're truly Alex's good luck charm. Carrying his child is such wonderful news. If the worst happens, at least part of him will remain in this world. His voice cracked as he wiped tears. Watching his emotional display, I found myself unexpectedly crying too. Alex returned just as Aua's words reduced me to tears. Seeing this, the usually composed man grew angry. Don't scold him, I whispered, tugging Alex's sleeve with red-rimmed eyes. Stay with me and the baby tonight. During my first days here, I'd slept alone in the master bedroom while Alex used the guest room. Though we'd shared intimacy and created life together, we remained practically strangers. When Alex's silk-robed arms embraced me that night, my body instinctively stiffened. But he simply brushed hair from my forehead, pressed a kiss there, and made no further moves. In the darkness, I guided his hand to my rounded belly. Feel our child, Alex. His breath hitched before steadying. The warmth of his palm smoothing over my stomach eventually lulled me to sleep. Ivy, he murmured against my lips as I drifted off. I'm sorry, Ivy. Too drowsy to question his apology. I forgot to ask later, not until years afterward when our child approached school age did a tipsy Alex finally confess, there are no true coincidences. Only carefully laid paths for those we cherish. The night before his Mexico departure, Alex stayed in the master suite. At 5 months pregnant, improved care and reduced stress had restored my health. New curves softened my face and body, pregnancy's glow evident. Though I often slept deeply, I'd sometimes hear midnight showers running as Alex battled self-restraint. That final evening when he kissed me goodnight, I clung to him longer than usual. No one knew about my recurring nightmares, never about those difficult months. But the memories always circle back to that first moment we met. I struggled desperately, screaming for help in Chinese towards the only Asian face in the crowd surrounded by admirers. I didn't truly believe this last resort would save me. Yet he stopped mid-stride and turned towards my disheveled form. After murmuring something to his entourage, my captors immediately released me. As I clutched torn fabric to my exposed skin, a heavy wool coat descended around my shoulders. Alexander Brown extended his hand-long fingers adorned with sandalwood prayer beads brushing my trembling palm. In that instant, I thought mercy itself had taken human form. Ivy, stop teasing me. Alex captured my wandering hand. Why can't I? He chuckled against my fingertips. Breath warm. You know exactly why. But the doctor said it's safe after 5 months. My cheeks burned as I met his darkened gaze. Unless you don't want to? His palm cradled my rounded belly. I'd never risk hurting either of you. The strained muscles along his arm betrayed his restraint as he murmured, Sleep now, darling. Turning in his embrace, I whispered technical details from online forums about safe positions. Ivy, hot lips traced my nape as his voice roughened. Where did my proper girl learn such tricks? The internet has tutorials for everything. His choked laugh vibrated against my ear. Tell me immediately if anything feels wrong. Would you actually stop? The bold question surprised us both. No. His arms tightened. But I'll be gentle. Sweetheart. I swear. He never knew how completely I'd surrendered to his tenderness years earlier. 2 weeks after Alex's business trip, I encountered Sophia during my morning walk. The once haughty socialite clutched my sleeve, begging for help returning to America. Only then did I realize Ethan hadn't been bluffing during our hospital confrontation. But Sophia's influential relative should have protected her. Later, Assistant Johnson explained Sophia's uncle would face execution after the corruption trial. Ivy. Please. Sophia's nails dug into my wrist. You're my only hope. Sophia knelt on the ground, clutching my legs as she pleaded once more. I looked down at her. After Sophia's father was imprisoned, how could her life remain undisturbed? Abandoned in this foreign land by Ethan, she now mirrored my own past circumstances. Yet unlike my fortunate encounter with Alex, no such salvation came her way. My assistant Ayu initially wanted to expel her, but I rested my hand on my rounded belly. Though Sophia had acted maliciously, her crimes didn't warrant death. My earlier demands to Ethan had indeed fueled the flames. But if we sought the true culprit for resentment, Ethan himself deserved utmost condemnation. For our child and his father's karma. I murmured. Even if Alex had kept secrets, I only prayed for his safe return. Becoming a wealthy young widow held no appeal. You. Contact her family. Sophia appeared mentally shattered, her eyes hollow with trauma. She's getting off lightly, I remarked without humor, beckoning Ayu closer. I whispered instructions. Days later, her family received word $10 million would secure their daughter's safe return. Simultaneously, the Smith family discovered Ethan's abandonment of Sophia overseas. The ensuing Smith-Johnson feud consumed both households. After Sophia's return, the Smiths forced Ethan into marriage using her compromised virtue as leverage. Their wedding reportedly dissolved into violence, with Ethan striking his bride amidst the chaos. The marriage became perpetual warfare, the once unattainable goddess now his most loathed enemy. Ethan drowned in alcoholism, their home echoing with nightly fights and physical abuse. As for me, I donated every cent to children's charities. Alexander had vowed to return before my delivery date. Yet 1 week prior, communication ceased entirely. The mansion buzzed with uneasy whispers until I ordered Ayu to purge disloyal staff, sealing the estate. 3 days before labor, with still no word, Ayu insisted on searching Mexico. Go. I rasped, my pregnant frame gaunt with stress. Bring me answers alive or dead. But Ayu remained, bound by Alexander's final command. He ventured into danger. Yet his greatest concern was still for me. He left his most trusted subordinate at home. But Ivy, Assistant Johnson, was torn. Perhaps I should escort you back to the country first. This place isn't safe anymore, naturally. Alex was always his priority. Yet here I was, carrying Alex's child. To complicate matters, with Alex's prolonged silence, his enemies were circling like vultures. Just yesterday, Assistant Johnson had apprehended several armed strangers outside the estate. Ivy. I'm not leaving. The baby and I will wait here for him. Ivy, go. I'll manage. I smiled at him, the same reassuring smile I'd given Ethan that day. Extending my bandaged hand, I said, see? Ivy doesn't break. She can endure anything. Assistant Johnson stared at my still unhealed injuries. Tears streamed down his face. I'm staying. I'll honor Mr. Brown's wishes, protect you and his heir. I wanted to urge him to go find Alex. Perhaps his presence alone could tip the scales. But before I could speak, violent cramps seized my abdomen. The contractions left me breathless, words dying in my throat. As darkness crept in, one thought remained: I wouldn't make it until Alex returned. Wouldn't have him by my side during the birth. When he'd left, he'd asked if I was afraid. I'd claimed courage. The truth? I feared everything: pain, suffering, brutality, hunger. Most of all, I dreaded that moment on the operating table. So, Alex. If only you were here, if only. Assistant Johnson and the staff rushed me to hospital. As they wheeled me into delivery, before the nurses could secure the door, it burst open with force. Ivy. Semi-conscious on the birthing bed. I vaguely recognized that voice. Struggling to open my eyes. My body refused to cooperate. Then familiar warmth enveloped my hand, that firm, reassuring grip I knew so well. Instant peace. Ivy. Alex's lips brushed my forehead. I'm home, sweetheart. The delivery proceeded smoothly. Doctors praised my condition as textbook perfect for natural birth, quicker recovery than C-section. They assured. My husband remained unconvinced. They eventually ejected the pale, trembling man from the delivery room when his anxiety disrupted the medical team. When I was crying in the delivery room, Alexander Brown stood outside the door shedding tears too. Assistant Johnson nearly panicked when he witnessed it. Alex sternly ordered him to keep it confidential. But the moment I left the delivery room, Assistant Johnson secretly told me everything. The mental image made me laugh uncontrollably, though my laughter soon dissolved into tears. No matter how resilient one pretends to be about enduring hardships, doesn't everyone crave to be cherished and treasured? Shortly after childbirth, Alex scheduled a vasectomy. The elders clung to traditional notions about continuing family lineage, but holding their great-grandson satisfied them enough to stop pestering us. This time Alex returned injured. His recent radio silence had been due to severe wounds. I didn't comment. Only waited until our baby turned 3 months old and I'd fully recovered before asking him to accompany me to a Buddhist temple. He doesn't believe in deities. I do. I prayed the Buddha might extend her mercy to protect him too, considering my sincerity. As I knelt holding incense sticks, Alex suddenly confessed. Ivy, you don't know how many sins I've committed. He'd swapped the medication himself, orchestrated the hospital blackout during the explosion. Later, he deceived her into leaving China for him. He fears no divine retribution, only that I might fear and reject him. Only that his obsessive longing for me might remain unforgiven. I handed him an incense stick. Then you don't know how compassionate and potent the bodhisattvas here are. Watching me kneel devoutly, Alex finally mimicked my posture and settled beside me. I gazed upward at the statue with reverent focus while he kept stealing glances my way. Neither of us realized it years ago, that single glance over his shoulder had destined us for a lifetime together.